Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to Black People Parenting Live. This is a live edition of the Black People Parenting Podcast, a special edition where we have conversations with Black folks about raising Black kids. I am your host, Dion, Glad Dad. Just glad to be here today on this live edition of the podcast, special edition of the podcast where we are having a real in-depth, real good conversation tonight. I got some guests with me. We're going to tap into some things. But tonight we're talking about homophobia in hip hop, homophobia in hip hop culture, homophobia in hip hop music. We want to talk about how it kind of affects us, how it affects our children, how it affects the way we raise our children. A lot of us in the Black People Parenting Group, a lot of people who listen to the podcast and watch the podcast, of course, were raised on hip hop. And, you know, as you get older, you kind of realize that a lot of the music that we were raised on is, you know, has been homophobic over the years. So got some special guests. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. One of our guests is off camera because he is tied up doing some other things, doing the Lord's work more than likely. But I'm gonna start off with the lady on the panel, So Free Wisdom. So Free, what's popping?
How you doing?
Oh, you threw one of the voices on.
How you doing?
So Free, tell them who you are, tell them what you do, and also tell them what your real claim to fame is, like the huge thing that you've done in the last couple of years that everyone should actually know you from, that I'm so proud of you for doing. Can you talk on that real quick?
Yes, I can. So in addition to singing and writing music, I do voiceover, and I'm the voice of Mommy and Grandma Shark in the Baby Shark song.
Do.
And I do a lot of voices on their channel. I'm on Baby Finn on Netflix. They just had a movie come out in the theaters for a little while, so that was real fun.
I didn't know you were on Baby Finn. That's a really, really good show. I like Baby Finn. Well, thank you for joining us. Also, we got my man Naeem Sumter on the panel. Naeem, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Good to have you here, sir. Go ahead and tell them about yourself. Tell them who you are. Tell them what you do.
I came in this world, Naheem, but I made myself Heem Lee. I'm an artist from Columbia, South Carolina. I can't really say hip hop because I do everything, so that's why I call myself an artist.
Okay.
But yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool. Well, let's dive right into it. Let's dive right into the topic of homophobia in hip hop, homophobia in hip hop music, homophobia in just hip hop culture in general. So I want to talk. Let's unpack it, right? So I'll start with So Free. How has homophobia affected your experience in the music industry? Has it even affected you? Because you are an artist, you've performed all over the world, you've had songs on the radio, you've done videos and all of those things. Has homophobia had any sort of effect on you as an LGBTQ artist?
A little bit. For the majority of my music career, you know, I was married to a man. So, but I still had songs about women and I would perform them and I would have women come up on stage. And for the most part, you know, because I'm a woman, I would get a pass. But every now and then I would, you know, get people pulling me to the side or commenting on the footage about, you know, this is a sin and you're married, how are you doing, blah, blah, blah. So, I see it. I also have had people that tell me in the past, like, nobody wants to see a plus size woman doing gay stuff on their shows. So I think, you know, with me, it's a lot. You know, I'm a Black woman, I'm a plus size, you know, I love women, and it's just a whole lot for people to attack at one time. So I don't really know how much just me you know, the gay part gets people coming at me. They just come at me for everything. All at once.
Right. So Naeem, I want to be clear. I want to like be sure that we're clear. So Naeem, you are not a part of the LGBTQ community, correct?
No, I am not.
Correct. Okay. But you are a hip hop artist. You are someone who has been around hip hop artists, performing and things like that. What do you think are some of the root causes of homophobia in hip hop, and what are some things that you have seen as an artist who is not a member of the LGBTQ community?
I think one of the biggest problems is kind of the root of it all. What we're taught. Not so much of me, because I came up in a household where homophobia wasn't allowed. We were very open minded to the people that we accept, and we don't look at people by their who they choose to be with, but who they are as a person. A lot of the times it's taught in our churches that it is wrong to be, you know what I'm saying, homosexual. It's taught in just all around life that it's wrong to be homosexual. When uh, we've come to see that this is a part of, life in itself. A lot of people in history have been homosexual, whether they came out about it or not. Is prevalent in history. As a straight man doing hip hop, I tend to speak out a lot when I hear certain words or phrases being used around me. You feel me? I don't let people say certain things just because I want to be liked. And I think that makes me even more likable, is that my friends and my counterparts and artists that I work with, they see that I actually stand on something.
So what is the approach that you take when you hear, because that can sometimes be a difficult hill to stand on, right?
Right.
If everyone around you is, let's say, saying a certain slur, right, and the slur that they use is a slur that is against, that is harmful to folks in the LGBTQ community, and to stand up and say, hey, don't say that around me, I don't want to hear it. That could be hard, especially around your peers. So what has been your approach to tackling that issue?
Mostly my approach is just to, say something. Just plainly say something.
Hmm.
For example, my it was a big conversation about Zaya Wade and everything, and that's a big conversation in the straight community, because a lot of people be like, if that was my son or daughter, that wouldn't be the case. You know what I'm saying? But as myself, I say, how can you say that when you always supposed to support it's your child, it's a seed, it's they come from you.
Hmm.
You know, that's just a big thing for me. Just accepting what you brought into this world and loving what you brought into this world with no remorse, without
Hmm.
thinking about it. Uh, that's just my approach.
Hmm.
I'm blatant about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Free, let me ask you, how do you think we can address the issues of homophobia in hip hop without limiting, the creative expression of artists, right? Because some artists would say that, this is just the way that I create. This is me being an artist. This is, the words that I choose to use, right? And I don't want to be censored. So um, how can we attack the issue, right, without limiting to what an artist can say or how they can express themselves?
I think that's challenging because again, you're going to have people that say, it's a free country. This is my opinion. I don't have to believe in the same things you do. I think just as a gay woman, I've had to accept the fact that no matter how hard I want to preach or teach people, not so much preach, but teach people acceptance. And, I like to challenge people on their thoughts. A lot of people are just so deeply rooted in their beliefs that it's not going to do anything. The only thing I can suggest is that we continue to spread the word of acceptance, and you gotta have thick skin because people say really hateful things every
Hmm.
single day about gay people, and a lot of these people are people I've known and grown up with, and I'm just like, how do you feel so comfortable saying these hateful things? You know me, you know my life. But you just gotta stand for what you believe in and be ready for the criticism because it's gonna always be there.
Yeah, yeah. Naeem, what do you think? How can we address it without limiting creative expression?
Uh, that's a great question. I really don't know the answer to that, to be
Mm,
honest. Because I just, a lot of the times, I feel like people just is when they use it in a song or in lyrics. I feel a lot of times it's really just off a habit. I feel like the change that would be to change habit. Would be to change the whole narrative.
hmm, hmm. So is it something that you think can be done? Like, can it be
It,
done without limiting? Because again, you're also an artist, and I assume that as an artist, you believe in freedom of expression, freedom of creativity, all of those things.
of
Can
course.
it be? Is it something that can be done without limiting, your or the artist's, creative expression?
I feel like it can. I feel like it's the same with white artists that don't use the N-word.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's talk about this. So Free, as an LGBTQ artist, you kind of touched on it a little bit. We are now starting to see a little bit more of representation in the hip hop community, in the pop community. We see artists like Saucy Santana. We're starting to see more representation of folks from the LGBTQ community in videos and in music and all those things. Have there been challenges for you in terms of seeing that representation and getting visibility in the music industry?
I can't say that it has. I mean, honestly, it's been a while since I released music. And again, when I was active and doing music and doing interviews, I was married to a man. So I didn't really run into a lot of these issues because unfortunately, women are more accepted as being bisexual in the industry because a lot of people, kind of turn it into a fetish. So we get away with a lot more than men, especially Black men in the industry. But as I'm rebranding myself and learning, who I want to be, and I don't really want to be focused as I don't want the focus to be here is LGBT Sophie Wisdom. I mean, I just want to be who I am, but I am prepared for a lot of pushback, especially because, I was married to a man for 10 years and I have children. So I'm prepared for all that's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't experienced too much of it at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you were to experience it, how do you think you would handle it?
The only way that I know how is just to brush it off, laugh it off, keep
Mm-hmm.
singing, because I have a lifetime of, not really being accepted, I've always had the support of my mother, but, my dad and other people in the family, it's been hard for them to kind of grasp. And so I'm used to what, once you get shot down by your own dad, it's like anybody else is really like, I don't really care how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest focus is like, I try to teach my children acceptance. So that's always been a really big deal in my house. I'm trying to raise young women that can go out into the world and help me spread this message,
Mm-hmm.
message of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way I can do it. I mean, somebody's always going to have something to say, especially in the Black community. I can say I've seen a lot more acceptance in the industry. And it's been slow, but it's totally different than when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
I love learning of new R&B singers, especially females that are gay and singing about women instead of feeling like they got to sing songs about men. And so I do wish that I had had more of that representation growing up. So I could have just been myself and not felt like I had to, play the role and be with men and everything. So, I just gotta fight fire with sugar. That's all I can do.
Now, Naeem, so Free just talked about getting some pushback from her family, and you talked about how you have kind of grown up in a household that was more accepting of people from all backgrounds, people of all beliefs, and people from the LGBT community. What would you say to a young person who might be trying to pursue a career in music, trying to pursue a career in hip hop, but might be getting some pushback from their family because of their sexual orientation?
You're asking like how do I think they should handle it?
What words of wisdom? Because you are someone who said you come from a background where it was accepted and things were a little bit more accepting and tolerated in your home. So how would you have that conversation with a young person who is struggling with that, with having a family who does not back up their sexual orientation?
Um, a lot of times it's hard to tell somebody to see where you're coming from when you don't really feel where they're coming from. Um, but I would more so relate on, how it feel to be the one rapper out of my family. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, it was always go to college. You know what I'm saying? It was always do this, do that. But when I told them I was dropping out of college, I was going to pursue a rap career. I didn't really want to work a 9 to 5. I was kind of not shunned for that because my family loved me regardless. But I was looked at differently. I could feel where they coming from, but if you feel that, I would tell them that if you feel that's what would benefit you and make you happy and make sure that your head is on straight and make sure that you're mentally well, you should pursue that. You should, no matter what your family think, if you feel that your family will love you regardless, even if you don't feel like your family will love you regardless, love yourself. It's all about loving yourself.
Good point. I want to bring somebody else into the conversation. This is someone who is normally here when we have these conversations, and she's looking magnificent as usual. Dr. G in this thing. Hey, Dr. G, how are you?
Oh God, I apologize. Yeah, life is took a turn for a second there, but I am here. Thank you, Lord.
Were
I
you?
am here.
Well, we are glad you are here. Thank
Thank
you for being a part of this conversation. So, just to kind of catch you up, we're talking about homophobia in hip hop, how it is affecting the community. We have So Free Wisdom here. We have him Lee here, and we're just having this discussion. And I want to, my next question, and Dr. G, you can kind of hop in on this also. I want to talk about the impact of HIV and AIDS and the epidemic on the LGBTQ community and how it intersects with the culture, because we don't necessarily hear a lot about HIV and AIDS in the music industry, especially since COVID has kind of came and had its ebbs and flows and taking us all around the world. We don't really hear about it, right? We don't really hear about people speaking out about it. So Sophie, I'll start with you. What impact, if any, in 2023, do you think HIV and AIDS has had on the intersection between the LGBTQ community and how it interacts with hip hop?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I really, like you said before, I don't really hear a lot of people speak about it. I believe there are a lot of people walking around with HIV, but I've known personally a lot of people that have it or have dated people that have it, and it's very nonchalant. Like, it doesn't seem to scare people anymore. It's just like, I don't care. I'll take medicine for it. And so it just doesn't seem like it is recognized as the issue that it is anymore. So I mean, I can't tell you the last time I heard or read anything about HIV in the industry at all. I mean, COVID took over, and again, it's like it doesn't seem like people really take it seriously anymore.
Dr. G, hop in here for me and talk to me about what you're seeing in terms of the work that you do with the young folks specifically, and how the members of the hip hop community, in terms of the younger generation, the folks who are consuming the hip hop music and hip hop culture, how do you think they are reacting to the HIV and AIDS epidemic?
Ooh, that's a load of questions. So let me first say that, for your listeners, watchers who remember NWA, Eazy-E, when he contracted HIV, that was a kept secret. I mean, a lot of people didn't even know that he had contracted the virus until way into his after HIV had moved into what we know as an AIDS diagnosis. So when we're still dispelling myths, first of all, about what is HIV and what is AIDS. We rarely use the term AIDS anymore because like it's been said, a lot of people don't even when if they die prematurely from an HIV infection, it has something to do with lack of care. Someone who did not get tested early, which is why we advocate for testing as part, or we call it routinizing. So if I go for a physical, I should be tested for HIV as part of the protocol. And so the first question, a lot of young people don't have access to health care. They have it as long as they are under the care of their parents. But what we do know is this. We know that the largest percentage of new cases for HIV infection are among young, Black, African American men, between the ages of 18 and 29. We know that of those cases, there is a over disproportionate representation of these young Black men who identify as gay or same gender loving. I think that that's part of the conversation that we have to have, that we have to talk about it. We have to talk about and advocate and edify people getting tested. We have to talk about PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. We have a medication, one pill a day regimen. We call it the other blue pill. Men that use Viagra know what that other blue pill is. But the other blue pill is PrEP. And PrEP, we know that it is 98 plus percent effective if taken as prescribed, which is one pill a day. We know it is highly effective in helping someone significantly reduce their risk of contracting HIV, especially if they're using condoms. And so there's all these innovations out here, biomedical innovations that I'm not sure young people know about because we're not addressing that in the classroom. They're not getting it in health education courses in our public school systems. We have states that are trying to attack young gay LGBTQ plus individuals. And we are ensuring that we're creating another generation of young people that don't have access to information, don't have access to medical care, don't have access to HIV testing. And that is a point that where the intersection begins. And I think about the music industry. I believe that the music industry, that the hip hop culture, that people who are astute to how they use their poetry and their language to communicate messages, if they really understood the state of urgency we were in, we would be totally ready, willing, and able to partner with them so that some of their messaging could help in the efforts for prevention, as well as encouraging people that are diagnosed and they're young to go get treatment and not go into the denial and fear, and let them know we are supporting them.
So let me ask.
HIV should not shape who they are.
Mhm.
It is not who they become.
Is there a responsibility from hip hop artists and music artists to speak out and try to make a difference in this epidemic? And I'll just ask that to anyone who wants to answer.
What you got to say, Heem?
Do we have a responsibility?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we have a responsibility to do a lot of things. I think we have a responsibility to teach financial literacy within our children. I think we have a responsibility to uplift the Black community. I think we have a responsibility to learn our history and preach our history. I think we have a lot of responsibilities to do a lot with the platform that we have.
So free.
I agree. I believe when you reach a certain level of celebrity that one of the first things you should do is use that platform to show, especially your own community, these are the problems that are going on. You're not listening to the news, not paying attention to what's going on in the streets, but here I am speaking to millions of you. This is what's going on. This is what I advocate for. So I do believe there's a responsibility. I know a lot of artists don't feel that way. But that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get to a certain level, I'm trying to educate my community on home ownership, HIV, other STDs, any history that a lot of Black history I've learned was like in college and even in my adult years. I'm still learning things that I didn't learn in school. So I do believe that we have a responsibility.
And I think about women, we although the statistics clearly support the fact that young gay men 18 to 29 are what I call vulnerable to connecting with someone who may also be positive or living with HIV. But look at the sex culture. So let me throw the sex culture in this conversation. We can't talk about doing a sister, doing using sex as a promotion as part of our messaging, and we all know it feels good. That's that goes without saying. But where is the messaging now? Some artists, I've heard them talk about it. Some rappers, I've heard them talk about using condoms or covering up, or however they articulate the notion that they need to protect themselves. Women need to protect themselves. I mean, when we look at the likelihood of transmission, one of the principles of transmission is that the receiver, the person, we know that blood, if we share blood with someone, if we share semen with them, or cum, some people, I'm just being straight up
Whoa,
with
Dr.
it.
G, this is a family friendly show, Dr. G.
Well, I
Jeez,
mean, I know
Louise,
it.
this
I
is a
know it.
family friendly
I know it.
show.
I know, but I'm talking about part of being a parent. Part of being a parent is also not just teaching the correct terms, but also teaching our children terms that they may hear, so that they can say, oh, I know what that is. One of the things we know puts young people at risk is being introduced to things, not understanding the terminology, and being talked into something that might have been delayed, or deciding to make a decision to act in a certain way, and making a choice to use protection if they knew the terms. And so part of being a family, we have Bibles in our homes. The question I have is, do we have a resource in our libraries at home so that when young people start going through bodily changes, when their periods begin, when they have when young men have wet dreams, and they have all of these things that are part of normal sexual development, that they have a resource to go to? And that is the foundation of our messaging. And it should come from our parents. It should come even I believe that the church, the faith community, is also a space where what better place to talk about sexual responsibility than in the walls of a church, where you get a combination of facts, but you get a combination of messaging that says, be responsible, protect yourself.
I feel like another issue is, I remember growing up and having sex ed class. The LGBT community is left out in those sexual education classes. And I can honestly say, if I had seen more representation and learned more about, it's okay to be who you are, this is what gay sex is, this is how it is, I don't think I would have ever even gone down that road of feeling like I had to portray myself as a straight woman or any of that. And so, I know I've seen a lot of politicians trying to get a little bit of, just even history about people in the LGBT community that should be recognized. And the first thing, especially the Black community, goes is why are they pushing that on our kids? And my kid won't be participating, because as soon as they hear gay, it's like, oh no, there's this gay agenda everybody keeps talking about. So I feel like even from childhood, the LGBT community is being left out, because they're not learning about safe gay sex. And I have met grown men, gay men, who thought that the only way you could get HIV is either, from a woman, or you can't get it from, anal sex and stuff like that. So it's just the fact that, that we're not even getting that education, and our parents don't know anything about it majority of time, or they're just too busy trying to shun us from it. So you got a lot of young people walking around and they don't know where to turn just to learn basic stuff.
Dr. G, I want to ask you, what are some of the most effective ways that you think we can use to create a safe and inclusive space for LGBTQ fans of hip hop music?
I think you need to add. Let's see. You know, this is again. I have been in situations where I've talked to clergy, and I went to one clergy leader, and I asked him. I set up a meeting with him, and he was open enough to speak with me. And I asked him, when he shared some of his views about the gay community, was he aware that they were inboxing me in church? Because people knew what I did. They knew that for 27 years, I ran an HIV, STD prevention intervention organization. And so in every single pew, on every single Sunday, there are people who do not identify as I identify, as a heterosexual Black woman. A heterosexual Black woman who's in a married state. I am not the norm. And so I asked him, what do you want me to tell them when they inbox me? What do you want me to say to these young people when they're asking me what I think about what you said about their community? And we had an honest talk. I understood that his theology was not going to allow him to edify and acknowledge that God made all of us children, and that all of us children were designed to be different. And I saw a billboard driving down the interstate today, and the billboard flashed in front of me, and it said, God loves LGBTQ plus children too. And I can't make it any simpler than that. And so I think I saw someone in the chat make a comment about the bias that exists in the church. And what I first say is that we have to seek out faith communities that acknowledge who we are. And when we sit in pews and listen to people de-edify that the community, then we need to really do some soul searching and ask us, is this, if God loves all of us, then what should I be sitting in this seat? Is this the seat where I need to worship him?
Mm-hmm.
And so prevention begins at home. That is my belief, that we should talk to our children. I know, I believe that Mr. Sumter has children. I'd be very interested in what his perceptions are about your question.
Naeem, you want to hop in? Or maybe not. Naeem, you there? His phone's breaking up. All right, so let his phone.
We hear some static in the back.
Yeah, his phone's breaking up. All right, so let me ask this, Dr. G. You talked about Eazy-E, who, a lot of us who are 40 and up or 35 and up maybe remember that, that situation. I remember where I was when I heard that Eazy-E passed away, right? I was on my way to school. My mom was driving me to school that morning. I just happened to hear it on the radio and had no clue that he was even sick, right? Of course, that was in a generation where information didn't travel as fast as it does now. But, that was I guess almost 30 years ago, maybe close to 30 years ago. Do we feel that the portrayal of number one, the LGBTQ community has improved in hip hop, but also do we believe that the stigma around HIV and AIDS has improved in hip hop and popular culture as a whole over time? So free.
As far as the stigma and HIV, like I mentioned before, I don't believe people look at it like they used to by any means. It doesn't seem to scare anybody anymore. I mean, like I said, I've spoken to people who either have it or have dealt with people that have it, and it's just, it doesn't seem to concern them or scare them because they know there's medications or there's certain ways they can do it and not get it. So and then when it comes to, the LGBT community and the industry, there's a long list of celebrities that I've heard even since I was a kid that are actually gay, that still have not either come out. I mean, I've known a lot of background dancers, stage crew that can say, I saw such and such.
Well-known actors.
Yes, a lot of rappers, a lot of very well-known rappers have been rumored to be gay, and R&B singers, and a lot of Black males in the industry are rumored to be gay and still haven't come out. So I feel like the stigma with, homosexuality is still there. I see that I feel like there has been a bigger stage for the LGBT community to be out there. I mean, we had our first openly gay man in the BET Cypher a couple of years ago. So I feel like we're slowly getting there. But will we ever get to a place where people are really scared about HIV and really just accepting of the gay community? I don't know if we'll ever get there. I can see the progress. I see the progress of acceptance in LGBT, but I feel like HIV, honestly, is just kind of fading into the background, which is very scary to me.
Dr. G, what do you think? Naeem is back.
Naeem, are you back?
I think he's muted. He's muted himself. You got to unmute yourself. But Dr. G, wait.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Naeem, we were just talking about the portrayal of not only the LGBTQ community in hip hop music and whether or not it's improved over time, but the ideas around HIV and AIDS in popular culture. How do you feel that have they improved over time?
I think the portrayal of LGBT has improved. It's more artists that are identify as straight that are working with these artists. I can say the biggest one being NBA YoungBoy working with Nas X on the song. So I think that the way that the community has came forward and branded together and held each other together at this point of time, I think that's been a testament to why it's so prevalent that it's being more seen as accepted in the industry.
Yeah, and I think this generation is much more accepting than generations in the past, right? We see Lil Nas X came out and has sold millions of records, and even though he's gotten some backlash, we see that he put a record out and has continued to put records out that have continued to sell. I don't think you could have done that 20-25 years ago as somebody who identified as being a part of the LGBTQ community. There's a question in the comments that I want to tackle. Someone said, what is the definition of being gay aside from liking the same sex? It's accepted. What's not accepted is the mixing of roles in women and men biologically. I'm not sure I understand that question, but if either Dr. G, you want to tackle that?
Well, part of the problem that or the challenge we have has to do with what I call anatomical assignment. People they are making decisions about who people are based on what they think is between their legs. And what this culture and what this society is telling us when we're using terms like non-binary is that people don't feel anymore that they have to be one thing or the other, that they have the right to be what what I know is the term fluid, that they may be anatomically assigned one way, but they are potentially seek to be loving and intimate with people who are anatomically the same as well as anatomically different. And that concept is foreign to old folks, like not like me per se. I say that because of my chronological age, but the old tradition is totally dismissive of that that thought of being fluid. And so my basic concept, especially from a public health perspective, and what I sought to nurture in my staff and how we received people and how we treated our the folks that presented at our organization for whatever reason, was come as you are. Come as you are, whoever you are. Our objective is that you are safe, regardless of who you love, how often you might be intimate, and with whom. Our focus is that, despite to the point about people not thinking HIV is a big deal anymore, it's not a big deal till you have to deal with it every day. And whether you have to take a pill every day, or whether you have to move and you see someone that you really turned on by, and now you have to eventually make a decision as to whether you're going to be honest and transparent with them about who you are and what you are carrying with you as part of who you are. And that's specific to a lot of things. You know, it's not just HIV. We have sexually transmitted infections that once you acquire them, you have them for life. That there's no magic pill. Take herpes, for example. You know, that is a STI. It's a sexually transmitted infection that once you contract it, you can treat it, but you can't necessarily ever get rid of it. That too is a challenge for people who are navigating in a sexual space, in an intimate space, in loving spaces, when they have to tell partners that they have something they can't get rid of. And the fear of rejection is always imminent in their thinking behind, in their mind, if I tell this person. So that's where we get into things where people don't tell, or they tell after they're already into the intimacy. That is when we are not giving people the opportunity to make a real decision about whether they want to walk into that space with you or not. That is a concern that I have, that stigma has on that fear of disclosure has on that.
Mm-hmm. I wanna move on to something, Dr. G. You were speaking and you gave me a thought, and there was a picture that floated around the internet maybe about a week or two ago, and the picture, it was a couple of pictures of Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors from the movie Creed.
Ooh, they feeling some kind of way too, boy. Go ahead.
And I'm gonna see if I can let me just share this real quick. For those that hadn't seen it, this is the picture, one of the pictures, and of course these two men are in Creed, and you know they are boxing in the film, and they are fighting, and they're doing some very masculine things, and just but there were some people on Beyonce's internet who had some things to say about this set of photos, because these two men were seen, I guess, embracing, they were seen, showing affection. And I was kind of taken aback by that, because it seems like every time we see something, pardon me, every time we see something like this, it's all about, a certain group of people who are labeling it as the media is trying to emasculate Black men. And I really try to wrap my head around it, because when I think about, Jonathan Majors is probably my favorite actor right now. And he has been in Ant-Man. He was in the Harder They Fall. He was a cowboy. He was a boxer. He was all of these things. And we never hear this crowd talk about how the images of black men are masculine. We never hear about those things. So I wonder, like, why do you all feel that in the black community there are so many folks, and I don't even know if it's a lot of folks. There's so many folks who are quick to say that, certain things are taking away the masculinity of the black men, but they don't give credit to those things that are obviously things that these men are doing that are masculine. And not only that, but why do we think that it's not okay for black men to embrace each other, to hug each other, to show affection? Um, because I think that is a part of the reason why the stigma is still around HIV and AIDS, right? So for you talked about, the fact that your dad, you can't, your dad hasn't accepted you for who you are, right? If we can't come to our loved ones and show them that we love them and that we care for them, regardless of, what situation that we're in, if we can't even, like, if two men can't even hug, then I I sure don't expect people to accept two men being gay, right? Because we can't even accept two men as brothers to hug each other. So I want to talk about. I want y'all to kind of tackle that and what your thoughts were on the photo, and I'll start with Naeem and the backlash that those two men got around that photo.
Um, I really don't. I really This is my first time kind of hearing about it. Um, but I just want to touch on the fact that it's just weird in our generation that it's not just them two. Like anything that black men do now is demasking the word. Um, it was something funny. It was a Facebook post that was like, I feel like a man knowing his Starbucks order is real sassy.
I
You
saw
feel me?
that.
Like I can't
I
even
saw that.
order
What is it?
a
Can you
chai tea
repeat that?
latte.
What did it say? What did it say?
It said I find a man that know what he wants from Starbucks to be real sassy. Basically,
And what
like
does that
I
mean?
know I basically I know I want when I go to Starbucks. I know I want a grande chai tea latte. You feel me? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
they bet it's basically saying that what I'm saying that's zesty, that's gay for us to know that what we want when we go to Starbucks. Like that's a female thing to do, to go to Starbucks. But we do the same thing, females like to do sometimes, we like to get pampered, we like to, do a little something. That's not us being female, that's just us enjoying what y'all have to enjoy for yourself as well. Um, I think that's another thing with the agenda that's been passed down from generations where uh the uppers try to separate the black man from the household, try to diminish what the black man is to the household. So I feel like that's just trickled down to different, outlets.
Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna touch on the historical piece to that. You cannot. You have we. We have to acknowledge that slavery, how black men and black women were demoralized as part of the human trade, that these lessons that black men can be ripped from their families, that if you look at the sexual trauma that our ancestors went through, some of these things have now transitioned into current life. Women being violated in front of their men partners, and it was acceptable and okay. Black men being raped in front of their wives
Hmm.
to show who's boss and who is in charge is part of the trauma. Using the Bible as a mechanism of weaponry, where we have used certain paradigms to foster the belief that instead of being a good Samaritan, that we should take part potentially in violating and creating more trauma for people who look like us. And so I'm in dissonance. I must tell you that as a almost 68-year-old woman who believes in Jesus, who seeks his counsel on a regular basis, I am at a place in my life because of who God called me to be as a servant, that I am in deep conflict in going into spiritual spaces where they traumatize LGBTQ plus people. And I haven't reconciled it yet. And this is an individual journey that I'm on. But I would call upon our leadership. I would call upon, there's a whole new group of clergy coming out now who don't perpetuate trauma, who do believe that, we should come as we are. And I don't like name dropping, but I could think of some young clergy right now that are part of the HVTN Faith Ambassador Corps. Reverend Jeffrey Howard, who's on my team. Reverend Perry Oliver, who's on my team, who was on our team. There are a lot of Howard John Wesley, who is Alfred Street Baptist Church in Virginia. There are young clergymen, clergywomen who believe that if we're going to save a life, we can't save a soul if we can't save a life. We cannot talk negative about God's children and think that they are not going to internalize that information and then not act, not in their private lives, find themselves worthy enough to protect themselves, find them worthy enough to say no if that's the case.
Right. So let me ask this last question as we wrap up, and I want everyone to answer this, but I'll toss to Sofri first. Sofri, how can we support and uplift LGBTQ plus artists in hip hop and in popular culture who may face discrimination and marginalization within the industry? How can we support? How can we uplift? How can we be allies to folks in the LGBTQ plus community?
A lot of ways. I know for me personally, learning more about famous LGBTQ people in history has helped me a lot. And I do believe that children in school should be learning about famous LGBTQ people, inventors, people that are part of history, and learn that, because, like you touched on, Dr. G, about, slavery, homosexuality and slavery. I've encountered a lot of Black men who, when they speak about homosexuality, they always go back to slavery. And it's like, I feel like a lot of them think that homosexual, it started then with slave owners, and instead of just that some people are just born that way and they want to be that way. So really just helping support people in their self-love, because the world is going to tell Black people in general to hate themselves. But when you're Black and you're gay and you're a Black man, the world is going to make you feel like you need to hate yourself. And all we can do is just tell these, everybody in the community, love yourself. Doesn't matter, who doesn't love you, as harsh and truthful as that is. Self-love is really the key to everything I've learned in the last few years. And going to their shows and taking your own ideas about what homosexuality is, if they're really gay, if they're not, what is gay, what is this, just go and enjoy the music. A lot of the LGBT community, you can hear the passion and the pain that they've gone through. Just support their music, share their songs, go to their shows, buy tickets, let them know that they're seen and they're heard. Spread the word, click share every now and then. You don't have to, just because you can support a gay person doesn't mean you're in danger of being gay, or,
What if the music isn't good though? Is it okay? Is it okay if we diss them if the music is not good? No. I'm just wondering, because I don't.
Now,
The
you know,
music
me
isn't bad.
personally,
I'm just saying.
I'm not going to share any music that I don't like.
Okay, I'm just saying. Like, I just want to
That's
know,
a
like,
whole other topic. If they're
right?
trash, then they're
Okay.
trash. It has nothing to do with it being gay.
Okay, cool. Okay,
You
just
know,
want to make sure.
the people that make good music that we
Got it.
actually want to hear,
Got
yes, just share their music. Tell a friend about them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to hear some of your music now more than I did. I don't even. Hey, I just want to hear some music, you know, and that would be my addition. That we, you know, if I would deliberately seek out certain artists if I knew that's to edify who, you know, that they're in a space where they feel comfortable saying this is who I am. The other part is, you know, I keep thinking about running an agency. I would have absolutely loved. I mean, we did concerts as fundraisers, right? We had Frankie Beverly and Mays. We had Charlie Wilson. We had Lettucey. We had the After Five. I mean, we had After Seven. Excuse me. We had all of these famous artists come in to do fundraisers. What would it have been like if I had, as a CEO of a nonprofit, been able to bring in a well-known rapper, whether they be male or female, or a collection of talent that of people who identified as such, to bring in that community, edify their music, push their brand, if you will, but also send a message that we care about the lives of all people. And so I would, my desire is that people that are working in the hip hop industry, when you have organizations like the South Carolina HIV Council Right Wellness Center, reach out to us, offer us an opportunity to feature your music and what you do. You know, give us an opportunity to connect with young people and say we're having this artist. You know, that would have been a dream for me. But that's one reality that I never had an opportunity because I did not know who to go to.
For sure. Real quick, I'm remiss. I'm as a one-time radio personality. I'm so upset at myself. When I was talking about Lil Nas X, in my mind, I was thinking about who else I was forgetting to mention, and that was Frank Ocean. And thank you to the person who commented and mentioned Frank Ocean. I could not think of his name to save my life, but definitely can't have this conversation without bringing up Frank Ocean and the strides that he has made. Even though I'm not a big Frank Ocean music fan, I don't think his music is all that, but I do think that he has definitely made strides for the LGBTQ community in the culture. Also, shout out to Chastity for chiming in. What up, Chas? Naeem, give us your thoughts on this last question, sir. How do you think we can be advocates for those in the LGBTQ community who are trying to make strides in the music industry?
Again, like everybody else said, good music is good music. Just working with, those that are in the community that have good music. I wouldn't have a problem with working with, you know, those who have good music, but I'm really picky about who I do features with, regardless
For
of
sure.
the gender. So,
For sure. Well, I want to
but
thank y'all
Frank
for.
Ocean is definitely one who has great stories.
He's what you broke up. He's what? He's what again?
Oh, I was talking about Frank Ocean.
I didn't hear what was the last thing you said. He's definitely what?
Oh, I was. He's definitely one who made great strides, and
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and what he's done,
Definitely.
for sure.
For sure. All right, man. Go ahead, Sophie.
Sorry. One thing I just want to say to the Black community, anybody that's watching, because one of the biggest, the most popular comments I get are, gay people, a lot of times gay issues and Black issues get compared. A lot of the Black community will say, well, I can't wake up and choose to be Black. So until people care about Black issues, I'm not going to care about LGBTQ issues. And I just want the Black community to remember that there are Black people in the LGBT community, and it doesn't have to be a competition of who's more oppressed. Like, we should just be all able to come together and fight all these issues at the same time. So
good point. Good point. Chastity also pointed out other artists like Young M.A. They shouldn't have to wait until they're 40 like the Brat to be themselves. Let's talk about that. The Brat is pregnant. The Brat is pregnant with child, and she is someone who has kind of not necessarily. Well, let's just say this: in the 90s, the brat was associated with dating men, right? At one point, we thought she was dating Allen Iverson, and she had the video and song with Tyrese and Sophie. That kind of goes back to your point about how you had to present yourself as an artist. But now we see that she's kind of living in her true, authentic self, right? As an artist, how do you think that feels like for her to actually be able to come out and to be able to have a wife and to have a child and to, to be with child at Brad is 40 plus. Brad got to be 40, 45, 46 at least. And I think she's been married for maybe a year or two. So, it just recently came out that she was involved with I think her wife's name is Judy, I believe. How do you think that would feel as someone who had to kind of hold that in for a while?
Amazing. I mean, there's still ignorance. I remember when she came out that she was pregnant. I can't tell you how many Black men I saw on the internet with their ignorant comments about, if she wanted D, she could have called me, all this. So I imagine it's very freeing. I'm so happy for her. I love watching her and her wife. And I can't speak for her, but to go your entire life, because the industry, I've spoken to so many industry reps, people in the music business, and it seems like it's still, they want you to be marketable. I've had Sony A&Rs tell me, you got to go out into the industry and men have to want to sleep with you. And that's just how you're going to make your money. And so I feel like when you got to spend your whole life pretending that you like something that you don't, it's got to be freeing to be living in her purpose and living her best life. That's how I would see it. That's how I feel.
Right. All right, so let's wrap it up right there. Any last words from? We'll just go around. We'll start with So Free, Dr. G, and Naeem. Any last words that you all want to leave with the folks of Black people parenting?
If you are a Black parent of an LGBTQ child, please love and accept your children. It's not a punishment. They need love from you more than they need love from anybody. And when you get disowned by your own family, I mean, it just adds to the list of issues that you're going to be, fighting your whole life. So please just learn to love and accept your children as they are. And please don't let them go off into the world thinking something's wrong with them.
Facts. Dr. G, close us out before Naeem goes.
Well, as a mother of a same gender loving woman, I am so proud of her. She has just made me, what she's accomplishing in her own right is more than I can even articulate. She is a mother of 2 sons and now a great grandmother. And I can't even imagine her not being part of my life. And so I edify what So Free has said. And I just thank, and I'm just going to give a plug again to the HIV Clinical Trials Network, because it's this process. This is what we're about. This is why I serve as an ambassador. And this is why I called upon Mr. Chavis, Dion, to be one of our consultants, because he gets it. And we need, getting it means we have to seek it. We have to seek knowledge and wisdom. We can't continue just to be satisfied with where we are. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity. I am so glad to meet So Free and Haim Lee. What you got to say?
I want to say thank you for having me. This was an awesome conversation. I would just like to say to everybody, just love yourself, be yourself, and just, keep your head up, keep pushing.
For sure. Well, thank y'all for joining me.
Why we don't see him, by the way? What happened?
He said his camera isn't working.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay. Look at the flyer.
Oh, Dr. G.
Mr. Chavis, love you.
Love you too, Dr. G. Thank you so much. We'll do this again next month, I believe, ma'am. I'll wrap up and just say thank y'all for being here, and for everyone that's listening to the podcast, everyone that's watching us on Facebook, on YouTube. Like I always say, man, take care of your kids, take care of each other, but most importantly, take care of yourself. And we'll see y'all on the next episode of Black People Parenting. Peace.